Hello and welcome to Startup Hack. Today we are going to talk about how to and how not to design REST APIs. So let's jump right in. Make sure to check out the link down below because we always provide the code samples that you can pull down and follow along so you can see in our project. Do you want to earn $100,000 a year? Do you want to become a software developer within just 3 months? With our amazing course and awesome tutors, you never have to worry about getting stuck. We help students to learn skills that companies want to hire. We are Startup Hack. Don't forget to subscribe our channel. So let's get started. Right, so rule number one, do use plural nouns for collections. It's an arbitrary convention, but it's well established, and I have found violations tend to be a leading indicator of this API will have rush edges. So here's example. There's no technical reason why one is better than the other. That's exactly why you should stick to the common convention your client developers already expect. Now, rule number two, do not add unnecessary path segments. A common mistake seems to be trying to build your relational model into your URL structure. So here's example. The listing ID is globally unique. There's no reason for shop ID to be part of the URL. Besides irritating your developers with extra clutter, it inevitably causes problem when your invariant changes down the road says a listing moved to a different store or can be listed in multiple stores. I've seen these mistakes repeated over and over. I can only assume it's a manifestation of someone's OCD. So here's example, which is not to say that compound URLs don't make sense. Use them when you genuinely have compound keys. So here's example. So rule number three is don't return arrays as top level responses. The top level responses from an endpoint should always be an object, never an array. So here's example. The problem is that it's very hard to make backwards compatible changes when you return arrays. Objects let you make additive changes. The obvious common evolution in this specific example will be to add pagination. You can always add to total count or has more fields, and an old client will continue to work. If your endpoint returns a top level array, you will need a whole new endpoint. So rule number four, don't return map structures. I often see map structures used for collection in JSON responses. Return an array of objects instead. So here's example. Map structures in JSON are bad. The key information is redundant and adds noise to the wire. Unnecessary dynamic keys create headaches for people working in typed languages. Whatever you think a natural key is can change, or clients may want a different grouping. So one converting an array of objects to a map is a one-liner in most languages. If your client wants efficient random access to collections of objects, they can create that structure. You don't need to put it on the wire. The worst thing about returning map structure is that your conceptual keys may change over time, and the only way to migrate is to backward compatibility. OpenAPI is a cautionary tale. Version 3 to 4 is full of unnecessary breaking changes because they rely heavily on map structure instead of array structure. So here's an example. If this was a Flutter list structure, adding a name to an object is a non-breaking change. So here's an example. Rule number 5, do use string for all identifier. Always use strings for object identifiers even if your internal representation, that is database column type, is numeric. Just stringify the number. So here's example. A great API will outlast you, your implementation code, and the company that created it. In that time, your infrastructure might be rewritten on a different technology platform, migrated to a new database, or merged with another database that contains conflicting IDs. String IDs are incredibly flexible. String can encode version information or segment ID ranges. Strings can encode composite keys. Numeric IDs put a straight jacket on future developers. I once worked on a system that, because of a database merge, had to segment numeric ID ranges by giving one group positive IDs, the other negative IDs. Aside from the general ugliness, you can only do this segmentation once. As a bonus, if all your ID fields are strings, clients developers working in type languages don't need to think about which type to use.
Just use strings. Rule number 6, do use a structured error format. If you are building the back end for a simple website, you can probably ignore this section. But if you are building a large system with multiple layers of REST services, you can save yourself a lot headache by establishing a standard error format upfront. My error format tends to look something like this, roughly shaped like a Java exception. So here's an example. Standard error format with a nested cause means that you can wrap and rethrow errors multiple layers deep. So here's an example. If service delta raises an error, service alpha can return or log the complete chain, including the root cause. This is much easier to debug than combining through the logs on 4 different systems, even with centralized logging. So here's an example. Thank you for watching this video. I hope this video will help your team make better REST APIs and in return make client developers all over the world happier. So don't forget to subscribe our channel and hit the bell icon for latest updates.
To joining our course, you can simply go to our website called startuphack.com. Thank you.